welcome back to Classic and Retro, and welcome to another video on the Rover SD1. Now, if you aren't already, please consider subscribing. It does help the channel out, and you'll be able to see how this car went from the daily driver of the channel to one of the biggest projects we've got. So in the last video we stripped down the engine bay and removed the old 2.6 engine, the straight 6 2.6, and we got rid of that and we stripped all the engine bay down ready to accept the new engine. I've had a lot of comments about what the new engine is and about what I'm putting in, and in this video we're going to sort all that out. So the new engine's been delivered. It was sat about there, and we've stripped the engine down, and in this video we're going to show you that, and we're going to show you us ideally, hopefully, trial fitting this engine into the engine bay to make sure it all fits as it should, and making some decent progress on the car. So yeah, let's do it. So it's going to be 2 litre turbo, fuel injected with the 5-speed manual that it's already got. So this is the donor engine. I've heard it runs well. The first thing I need to do is get everything off it that I don't need. So I've already taken the starter motor, flywheel, clutch assembly off. I'm going to keep the flywheel for now because we're going to need it for the ring gear for the crank sensor. It gets its signal from a crank sensor that comes through from behind, not off the actual front of the crank. I'm now going to take off the heater pipes. They're very overcomplicated. I'm going to have them coming straight back into my heater matrix, so they'll be coming off. This overflow pipe won't be needed. The overflow tank on the SD1 is on that wing. I'll probably switch it over so it'll go from there straight to the overflow, so I can get rid of all these, and I'm going to get rid of the heater pipes for now. We can have a straight run going back. The other one is there. Yeah, so let's get those off and then we can see what we're up against. We're also going to do away with the power steering and water pump combination. We'll probably run an electric water pump, so we need to get all that off. So that'll free up all this corner. We'll then probably move the alternator down, make that a bit better. The water pump's going to be up here because behind this mount, I've been told, is the original hole where the O series water pump would have fit. If that's true, we're well away, so we'll have a look into that. We're also going to need to figure out how to rotate the thermostat housing around so it points this way instead of that way, so we're going to have to clock it. All good fun. First things first, let's get some bits stripped off it. On this side we've actually got an oil cooler, which is quite a cool thing to have, but it's in completely the wrong place from where I would need it. I need these holes because that's where my engine is going to mount, so I'm going to take the oil cooler off. There's only a bolt up there holding the pipes, a couple of big oil cooler lines there and there, and then these 3 bolts. I'll take the oil cooler off and keep it, but obviously it can't live there. Most of this wiring I want to stay. I want that to stay all as original as possible. I'm probably going to get rid of that. The inlet manifold needs to point the other way anyway, but I probably won't use that pipe because this is going to come this way to my brake boost, which is here. So yeah, plenty more to do. Get these power steering lines off, get the oil cooler off, and then we've really cleared quite a path, and then it's the big one of getting that water pump off on the other side, but we're getting there. Right, so as you can see, that's now freed up a massive amount of room on this side of the engine. Now it has left us with a hole straight into the block, but we can put a core plug in there. If you look down there, there's already a core plug in there, so we can block that with a core plug. Obviously we're going to have an alternator here. The turbo's pointing the wrong way, obviously. I'm thinking about getting another manifold made that sits the turbo further up. We'll need to figure out what to do about the dipstick. Obviously I mentioned this needs clocking to come this way. Front engine is looking pretty stripped. We need to get that off. We'll obviously change the cam belt before we fit this engine, and as I said before, behind this there should be a space for a water pump, so we need to figure a pulley system out, but that's not so bad. I've stripped the full loom off the engine for now to stop any wires getting damaged. There is a bit of damaged wiring that goes to the fuse box, so I might buy another loom. I was going to take the oil cooler off today because, as I mentioned, I don't want it sitting there. I want it to sit at the front of the car. However, it's full of oil, this engine, and it's on my drive, and I don't want to spill oil all over my drive. No, it's not happening. So I don't want to take these off until we've drained all the oil out, and we had an absolute nightmare with that bolt, so that needs some love. Once that's out, we can give the engine a quick clean. It's not having a full rebuild yet, so we'll give it a quick clean, a lick of paint. We'll get the inlet manifold taken off because it obviously needs to point that way, as we mentioned, and we're going to have to look into a sump. We'll get rid of the downpipe because obviously it's not going to cross under there. We're going to have to look into a sump. Maybe it'll fit, maybe it won't. And then pretty soon we can think about getting the new back plate on and doing a little test fit, the first of many test fits. You might have seen it's now running a different reg, no longer Dudley. People who are into SD1s will probably recognise a WOA number plate. It's just quite cool. I saw it, it was cheap, I wanted it. I've actually got some retro plates coming. I'll drop a link to them in the description of this video. They make period number plates for classic cars, so mine is going to have the proper Hartwell's logo on the number plate. It's going to be a full-size rear, bigger than that obviously, and it's going to have the Hartwell's logo. Check them out, they're absolutely brilliant. The old style font, the old logos, everything you could want. Let's get this engine away. That's the timing belt and the back plate stripped off, and I've also taken the engine mount off, which has also got the mounting point for the timing belt tensioner on it, and as you can see it's left this. Now from what I've been told, that hole is from the original O series engine where there would have been a water pump, and I'm led to believe a Maestro Montego, might have got that wrong, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but O series water pump will bolt directly to that. So a couple of options here: get a Maestro Montego water pump, bolt it up, I'll have a pulley, everybody's happy. However, that leaves me with the problem of how to mount the tensioner for the timing belt. The other option that I've just had a think about is getting a flat plate made that's the same thickness as that, say 10mm, with the mounting on for the timing belt, and having a hole in the middle, having a blanking plate on there with a pipe coming off it, and having a electric water pump like we were speaking about earlier. I think I will be able to modify most of the covers to then go back on. There would be one pipe obviously going straight through there, but we should be able to make that quite tidy. But for now, that's the front stripped down as much as I want it to be. Next, and probably final job on the engine for now, is to get the oil cooler off. We're back on the trusty phone. So that's the SD1 sump fitted, loosely I might add. It's only got like 3 bolts in. Now, although people tell you that it's going to fit, and that's been done before and all this, the sump quite obviously doesn't fit because those 2 holes don't line up. There is enough meat on the sump to re-drill the holes where I want them, under there, and trim that off. So I'll do that. It looked quite shallow at the front, so I've put the crank pulley back on and rotated the engine a couple of times just to make sure there were clearance, and there is, so that's good. I've also loosely fitted the SD1 backplate just using the 5 8mm bolts that used to hold on the old bearing carrier when it was in the T series. That again didn't go perfectly according to plan, because although this is an SD1 sump, SD1 backplate, and everyone says that the block's the same, it's definitely not, because I had an overhang on the back of the sump of, what are we saying, 8mm. So I've chopped that off with the grinder. I'll neaten it all up when I take the sump off and re-drill a couple of holes where I need them, because although it lines up now, all the bottles on the front line up, these would line up if they were further in. The back ones for some reason are too far back, like the flange is just too long, so yeah, that needs sorting. Bearing in mind, please do bear in mind, this is a rough mock-up, so all I'm trying to do is get it to a point where I can bolt it in the car and just route all the hoses and wiring and prove the concept. So once it's all in and it's bolted up to the bell housing and I'm happy that it fits and doesn't, mainly that doesn't hit the bulkhead, Then I can take it all back out and go through all these little niggling problems. You know, I'm going to work my way through each one of them, find a nice solution for it, make it look good. Then the whole engine's got to get cleaned, it's got to get painted if I'm painting it. I'm probably going to do it in the same colours as the 2600 that I took out, so leave the head alloy, clean it all up, obviously clean all this up, and then just paint the block and everything a nice shiny black. I want it to look as factory as possible. So next step is find a couple more bolts that will bolt into there, because I'm not happy with just the 8mm. And I'm also going to drop the SD1 flywheel on just to check clearance on the bolts that I need to buy for there. So once that's done, we'll get the engine mounts on. Again, we've got to get rid of this dowel. Once that's done, get it on the engine stand, get it on the engine crane and get it in the car. Get in there. Come on, in. So I think that's probably where we'll leave it today. It took a bit of doing, it took a bit of working out, and it hasn't been without its issues, but the engine is now bolted in, bolted up to the gearbox with, yeah, admittedly like 3 bolts, but it's bolted up. It's on the mounts. We've not reconnected the anti-roll bar like stays yet, but yeah. T-Series turbo. Well, not got a turbo on it at a minute, but T-Series turbo SD1. That's the way we're heading. Problems, right, quite a few. The sump, although people said an SD1 sump fits a T-Series, doesn't. Going to want quite a bit of modification. It's on for now, for mocking up purposes, but it does want quite a bit of work. The back plate wants some holes countersinking in it, as I mentioned I think earlier on in the video. The cam position sensor is touching the bulkhead, so we'll need to do something about that. It's not like in danger of breaking it, but it's touching it. You've got absolutely no chance at all of getting anything onto this breather. That's a few problems. Next issue, oh yeah, absolutely no way of getting a distributor cap on, so we're going to have to convert this to coil pack. What else? No, I think that's all the issues. Positives are, well, I mean, look how far back it sits in the engine bay, so that's got to be good for weight distribution. It's cool, it's twin cam, it's not been done before. I've mocked the radiator up for now, but the radiator we're going to move back to probably about here. It'll give us space to put an intercooler in front, and then the intercooler pipework will be able to run between the radiator and chassis leg. There's plenty of room there, so you'll have one coming down that side and one coming down that side, a couple of 90-degree bends. I'll probably use this bracket and somehow mount the intercooler to this and then just extend it so it's like intercooler radiator. We'll figure that. I'm going to get a new radiator anyway, and then we're going to leave these on, obviously, so we'll run an oil cooler as well. So that's all good. This is probably the last video I'm going to do on the SD1 or on the engine conversion for a while, because what's to follow now is a process of moving things, making things, mocking things up, and it's tedious and slow. It might take a full day just to make a bracket for a radiator or something like that, you know, so, and to figure out where it's all going to go. So I will record it, but I'll put it out in one big video when it's all mocked up. So the next time you see it, the water pump will be on, the turbo and my exhaust manifold will all be on. We'll have most of the wiring and all the pipe work and everything run where we want it to. We'll have got rid of some brackets off the engine bay sides. It'll look, for all intents and purposes, a completed engine, but it won't be running. It'll all just be mocked up, and then I'll do a video when we get to that point and show you how I've got there and what parts I've used and things like that, in case anyone's daft enough to want to try and do this themselves. And in the meantime, there's plenty to do. Rear brakes need doing, rear suspension wants doing. I've got loads to do, and obviously plenty more projects to come. So yeah, I'll leave this one here. As always, if you've liked this video, please consider subscribing. It really does help the channel out. Tell me what you think in the comments to the engine conversion. A little bit different to a 6-cylinder or a V8. I like doing things different. I should have probably just bought a 4-litre out of a Chimera or something, or a TVR Chimera, and dropped that in. It had been back on road by now, but I don't really like to do the normal route. It's boring. It's been done too many times. And thanks for watching.